Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Maximizing Your Social Reach, How to Create High Converting and Compelling Marketing Content. And we are very, very excited for today's webinar as we have three outstanding guests who all have specialized in content over the years in real estate, starting with Marni Hale. Marni was the CMO at LionDesk. And before that, she worked with the Tom Ferry organization. And her last great achievement was she wrote a book, Simplify to Amplify. So welcome, Marni Hale. Marni is an expert in marketing for real estate. Super excited to have her on board. Then we've got Jonathan Whiting from StreetText. He is the co-founder of StreetText. And StreetText really focuses on Facebook and Instagram ads and shows you how to actually get those to perform in the right way by providing the right content and having the right strategy around social media. And then we have Dan Stewart. Dan's the CEO of Happy Grasshopper, and Happy Grasshopper is one of those companies that really does specialize in the content that you should be using, and whether it's an email strategy, a text strategy, or your social media strategy. So welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing this morning?
Doing great.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. So let's start, with some general thoughts. So when you think about what's going on with the low inventory and high interest rates, give me your thoughts on the market today. And let's start with Marni.
Well, I think it's safe to say that it's a tough market for a lot of people out there. That's for sure. The NAR numbers that just came out recently, wasn't it that it's the largest decline that they've had in membership recently? So what we're seeing is that people are struggling, but it's not all doom and gloom, because I think that it's a beautiful message for the people who are in it and are going to double down in this market, who are going to come out really strong on top when this goes back to normal, or the new normal, which it will.
Yeah, so I actually had the opportunity to watch the head economist from NAR at the NAR event 2 weeks ago, and he's predicting that things will actually start to turn around in December of this year and should be back to normal by this time next year. So we've got another year of this. Dan, what are your thoughts on that?
I saw Lawrence Yun speak as well. I love the stats that NAR provides. It's a huge service to the industry to have his mind focused on this for us. And I'm going to say that my thoughts are it doesn't matter, which may sound a little bit strange, right? The reality is there's always things that are happening. And, our job is to provide value to the people who rely on us for services. Right. So as a real estate professional, it really doesn't matter what the market is doing. You need to help your clients win in that particular circumstance. So, taking a look at this particular scenario where we've got high interest rates and low inventory, if you're a broker owner, you need to know that you've got agents who are fatigued right now. They're tired of writing 6,000 offers and then not having the house get sold, right? Not having their buyer win. If you're an agent, you have to know that your buyers are feeling fatigued, right? So in understanding this is the thing that's happening now, you have to ask yourself, what can I share about that thing that's happening now that will cause me to have better relationships with the people that I serve, right? And I think if you just follow that general format, no matter what's happening, you've got the right thing to say to the right people at the right time.
Absolutely. And that revolves around what we're going to talk about when we get to do the deep dive into the content side of things, because it is so important in this time of, call it, difficulty. I mean, I don't find it that difficult because I think there is opportunity, like you said, Dan. What about yourself, Jonathan? What do you think of what's going on in the marketplace today? And has it affected people and, from a content perspective with your business?
Yeah, I agree with both these statements. And it's really key. Like I interviewed a guy just from Africa a week ago, and he was saying, he's like, he doesn't even think about in terms of like whether the economy is good or bad, because it's always good or bad in Africa. And so it's just like play as normal. So go forward. I mean, we know that inventory is the lowest it's been. It's 46% lower than average, and it's the lowest it's been since 1999. So it's definitely a different market. But then I think, okay, well, 2.7% new housing market, like new construction starts, that's a good sign. And then who in your segment are you serving? So if you know that, I think that the other stat that I think is interesting is that 63% of people who have a mortgage on a home have a mortgage below 4%. That means there has to be a strong incentive for them to sell their home and relocate, because they're going to be paying higher interest rates when they get a new financing option. So is there, you got to be creative. So you can do, especially in the US, you have more flexibility. Like you can carry your mortgage over to the new property. So a lot of it is going to be education, if that's who you're serving. Or think about, okay, who's got 100% equity in their home, who's going to be downsizing, or who's looking for their secondary residence. So they have a different inventory position or equity position in their home. So they're not looking at a mortgages in the same way. And so I think this is a really good time to be focusing on off-market houses and figuring out, because there's so much demand, if you can figure out who's got a home that actually would be willing to move today if they could have the home they're looking for, make that connection. This is going to be the opportunity for a lot of agents. And then as well, whenever there's a shift in the market like this, as we're sitting in right now, it's a really exciting opportunity for anybody who's looking to take market share, especially as a listing agent. So this is a prime opportunity, I think, for agents who are hungry and motivated, and they're looking carefully at, okay, who am I targeting? Who's my avatar? And how can I find the right position for them in this market? Because there's a win-win in every market, but especially right now, if you can target like downsizers or whoever your niche is that you're specifically going after.
Yeah. In every market, people have to live somewhere, right? No matter what the market is doing, there's always homes that need to be purchased and sold. And so when conditions are adverse, you can shift your focus to the relocation, the probate, the divorce sales, the things that will happen regardless of interest rates. So yeah, great tips. Love it.
Yeah, and the point about equity is really strong too, right? Because there has been an incredible amount of equity built up in real estate over the last 10 years. So people should, I look at myself, for instance, right? My home is, I've grown the equity in my home by like $1 million. But what am I going to do with that $1 million? And what interest rate is it at the right time for me to do that? Anyway, so let's talk about content. But before we jump into things, I just want to mention that we do have a live chat happening on the site. So if you do have a question, please add it to the chat and we will answer those at the end of the webinar. We do have someone on there. If there's other questions that she can answer, she will. But let's jump into things. So let's start with you, Dan. We are going to talk about content and the importance of content, but why do you think realtors struggle with that content?
A good agent has so many wonderful personality attributes, and many of them who are great agents and serve people really well, there's like a missing gene somewhere. And it has to do with organizing things. Like, I mean, honestly, if we could see everybody and I asked you to raise your hand if your database was perfectly organized, they would laugh, right? They would laugh. So that's like the first big roadblock that an agent has to overcome is, how do I even organize a database where I can send messaging to the right people at the right time? And then once they overcome that, then there's some psychological issues, and not to say mental illness, right? It's just the psychology of, wow, I listed their home. It was on the market for 10 minutes and it sold for 100 grand above asking. And I got a giant commission check for that. Maybe I shouldn't reach out to that person right now. Like, they might hate me. Or maybe the agent is concerned about the neighbors, right? Or maybe the roof was getting kind of close. Like, they create these scenarios that don't really exist in reality, right? It's just the excuse in the moment that prevents them from reaching out. So I think a great content strategy has to start with helping them over those first two hurdles. How do we get a database organized for messaging? And how do we get the agent mentally prepared to really want to create engagement with the people in their database? So those are the two foundational elements really for a great strategy.
Marni, what are your thoughts on this one? Why do you think realtors struggle with content? From your Lion Desk days, you guys had lots of services. embedded within the product, it just didn't get the traction, right? So what do you think?
Yeah, I think not only from my Lion Desk days, but Tom Ferry and what I'm seeing today, I think that people, including myself, we just overthink it. We overthink what we're trying to do and who we're trying to be. And, we don't have to be Gary Vee. We don't have to be Tom Ferry, right? That works for them. But I think there's a lot of pressure on people right now to try and be like these other people who are out there who are quote unquote the influencers on social media. And my big message to everyone is to just be yourself, right? Because when we're trying to be like Gary Vee and that's not who we are, the audience feels that and senses that. So figure
Right.
out who that is within you for the audience that you're trying to reach and connect with, and be true to yourself. So,
All right. So Jonathan, you're someone who is obviously passionate about social media. Your company, StreetText, that's what they do for a living. Why do you think realtors struggle with it so much? And how can we make that change and make it easier for them?
Yeah, so both Dan and Marni hit on really good points. I think the key is you have to be yourself, and the reality is that it's not just hard for you; it's hard for everyone, and it just know that like the competition is fierce. There's a lot of people who are creating content right now, and they're out there, they're doing it, and so the reality is you have to do it in order to be seen, to stand out, to communicate your message. But the reality is that sometimes it's really easy to overcomplicate it, but don't underestimate the power of simplifying, like just doing the simple strategy, and know that what is like extraordinary is just extraordinary, right? So it's just do the simple things, and it actually makes a huge difference. And sometimes those simple things you think about, whether it's sending out that monthly market report, or following up with that person and communicating in a specific way, or on social media, just posting that post, whether it's once a week or once a day, whatever your frequency is that you prefer, just making sure that you're taking the time to create that post, putting it out there, putting it on Instagram, putting it on Facebook. Obviously now there's channels like you got to be on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, the Reels. The amount of places that you can be has grown, but it doesn't mean you need to create one unique post for each of those. You create one post, and it goes to all three channels. You create one post on your Facebook fan page, and follow up with it, like 2 days later, 3 days later, go in there, like it, comment it. But it's actually a lot more simple than we sometimes think it is. And don't underestimate the power of just that simple, the simple strategy, and just executing on that.
100%.
Interesting.
Like I put in
Interesting.
the chat right there, the ordinary is relatable. And somebody said this to me the other day. She's like a story coach. And I was overthinking things. And when she said the ordinary is relatable, it's almost the opposite is what we think we're supposed to be doing, right? Like making up stories or like making it bigger than it should be. But what you said in the beginning, Jonathan, which is we all feel this way and we're all going through it. Go back to the ordinary, which is the realness side of us all. And that's really what connects with people.
Just embrace who you are, right? Embrace who you are. I think particularly in real estate, like everybody's been taught the DISC profile, right? And their agents walking around doing a little mini DISC assessment when they're meeting people. And they're like, oh, I need to be high D for this person or high C for that person. And they're spending so much time manipulating themselves. It creates a real sense of unrest. And it's hard to consistently do things well when they're uncomfortable for us. So get comfortable with yourself first, and then just show up as yourself and let people with whom that resonates be attracted to you. You don't need everybody. You need the people that are really a joy for you personally to work with.
So it's an interesting concept for sure. And I agree for sure. I just want to point out some stats, which are super, super interesting to me. So back in 2000, 2005 right till 2020, there was about 6 million homes sold in North America, and those homes generated 6 million leads. Today, after COVID, we come out of COVID, and those homes, which went down to like 4.8 million, those homes are generating 150 million leads. So that tells me one thing: the consumer has become much more educated. They're looking at multiple sites. They understand the realtor.coms or the Zillow of the world and what they deliver, but then they're also sourcing out websites for real estate agents. So that's one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about this, is because the consumer, who is really the person who drives the industry, let's be honest, right? They're the people buying and selling homes. So why is it so important to give the right content when you're trying to attack those consumers? Now, whether that's on your website, on your social media, via text or via email. Dan, you're up on that one.
Oh, excellent. I could talk for 2 hours on this topic. It's one of my favorite things, right?
Perfect.
Because if you've got good data, you can make good decisions. And the data that you've shared is extraordinarily valuable for the agent on the street to understand. Because back in 2014, speed to lead was the most important thing. There were either 4.5 million digital leads for about 4.7 million transactions, or just the other way around. I don't have the stat in front of me.
Yeah.
And today, in today's market, we've got 150 million leads for 4.8 million transactions. So think what the experience is for the consumer, right? They register on your IDX website, they go to a portal, Zillow, Realtor.com, et cetera. They stop at an open house, and agents are putting that opportunity into the same sort of follow-up program, right? They're getting saved searches, and they're getting them from multiple agents. It's essentially the same data delivered over and over again, which gives the agent no differentiation. We're sort of robbing ourselves of the value prop. So, my recipe to help our members convert more of the leads that they're generating is really straightforward. We need to respond quickly and authentically, because speed to lead still matters, right? Let's not assume that that lead that just came in isn't ready to buy or sell today. We want to put our best foot forward there and win that business. And yet, let's also have a strategy to build a relationship and convert that lead over time, even if it's more than a year until they're ready to actually talk with us. So 3 phases go into this. The first is what we call an acknowledgement phase. That is when, like, let's say Jonathan is a lead that just comes in on my Chime site. I might send him a text that says, hey, Jonathan, it's Dan Stewart at Dan's Realty. Thanks for finding me online. I'm wrapping a meeting now, and we'll call you in about 20 minutes. If it's urgent, please text and I'll step out. Thanks. Right? So that is an example of an acknowledgement message. Tells him a real human is involved now. It's not just an autoresponder. And it also gives a reasonable expectation that I'm a busy person. I'm a professional, and I'm going to serve you well. And yet I also have other commitments. So I like that. I don't like the agent to just lay down and say things like, call me 24/7. I'm always available to help you with your needs. Right? Agents will burn out. So the other thing there is I set an expectation in that content that gets fulfilled with future content. And there's a key learning there, because if you register online today and you know that you're not going to be ready to shop for even another year, if we've set expectations in that messaging and then we fulfilled those expectations over that time interval, we're building trust with a stranger. We've got the time to teach them what our past clients and Sphere really appreciate about us. And that's what really works with lead conversion. It's that transfer of trust, where even before they found the property, they can feel a sense of relief that they finally found their agent. And at risk of consuming the rest of the webinar time, I'm going to shut up now. But you can tell I really care about this topic. I could go for a long time.
And we're going to come back, because there's so many questions that revolve around this specific topic, right? It is kind of it's the heart of the webinar. So Jonathan, StreetText, that's what you guys do extremely well. I'm going to give you a kick at the same can. Same question.
So you got to know your avatar. So if you're creating content, you have to be communicating to somebody. because your content is your number one attraction engine. It's your trust building engine. It's your how they get to know you, like you. And what you're putting out there is going to be a magnet that's going to attract someone towards you. So if your avatar is somebody who is a first time buyer, the way you communicate them, the kind of content that you create is going to be very different than the content that you're going to create if you're going after that luxury age or the luxury buyer. Because if you're going after first time home buyer, if you think about what is this top 7 to 10 problems that person has, it's the same across the board. And so you create content that answers those questions. You can be very relevant to them. And you can say, like, you know, what would be some of the similar journey that this buyer is going to go through? And can I create a real quick, you know, everything from a blog article, like how to solve this problem, to a 30-second YouTube short, which will introduce it, to a long form video that's on the same topic, to my Instagram that's on the same subject. And I put that out there. That's actually a month worth of content. And now I put, say, like 10 problems. That's almost a year's worth of content, but the whole time I'm speaking to the same avatar. So I'm attracting the right person to me. And I think that's really key, is that content can drive your attraction engine. And what's really important when you think about it is that Gary Vee is out there. Gary Vee is a known entity. He is a brand. You need to become a brand as well, because when the amount of content that can be created today, we're going to get into AI, but I mean, AI just makes it so much easier, right? And so how are you going to stand out? And this is this is where I think the content creator needs to be really aware. Like, if you're putting content out there, you need to have a way of communicating, whether it's your email list. I really believe you need an audience. So you got to be able to communicate to your email list. You need to be able to communicate to your Facebook page. You need to communicate to your Instagram, but then you also need to use some form of paid to ensure that the content is being seen. And so you're getting the attention of people, and you're getting as well, not just to your like core database, but just beyond. So you're constantly attracting new people, new eyes, and they're getting to know you. So you become that trusted source, that trusted agent, so that when they're ready to move forward, they've already chosen you 2 months ago. It was never a matter of if I'm going to work with you. It's just a matter of now the time is right.
Yep. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Makes sense. So Marni, I'm going to take this in a deeper step with you. So our industry has always had this problem that the leaders in the industry step up and they talk about top of funnel, right? So lead in, how quick do you get to them? And then they completely forget about what's going on after the fact. So what would you tell a real estate agent? You know, top of funnel happens, but what happens after that from a content perspective? So you could have someone in your database from 30 days to 90 days to 5 years.
Yeah, no, 100%. And this is a topic that I talk about all the time as I'm trying to help clients grow their business. So it's a perfect question for me. I think years ago, top of funnel, we were looking at direct response, which is typically you generate a lead or an inquiry, and then you want to convert it immediately. And as we've talked about here, the power has shifted into the consumer's hands. And that means that we as companies and brands need to shift as well. So exactly what Jonathan said about consistency of message and knowing who you are and who you're going after, that experience needs to be the same throughout the entire touch point that they have with you. So a lot of people tend to focus so much on that top of funnel experience to get somebody into their database, and then they just forget or don't do the same level of experience throughout that entire journey. Because like you guys said, they're not going to just convert on that first time that first touch point. What is that experience that you're providing for them for that entire time that you're nurturing them, that you're connecting with them? And that's not even just living up to the sale. It's after the sale, because of all of the referrals and the repeat business that can come from that. So it really starts from having a mindset of being clear of who you are and what is the experience you want to provide to somebody, to build that trust for the life of your business with that person who's going to expand your entire business, and really go deep on the experience through the entire funnel, not just the top of the funnel, but the entire thing through the sale and then beyond.
How do you feel about automated content versus kind of call it live content?
Yeah. So it has a little bit, you need both, right? Because we can't be everywhere at all times. But like, I love what Dan said about that first message. It's an automated message, but it's human conversational tone, right? So you use tech and these tools as exactly that, tools, right? If we're going to get into Chat GPT, they're tools to support what we're already doing. So it's not a automation or not, it's yes.
Effectively using it. So I'm going to jump into the next topic really quickly here. So how can technology play a role in helping realtors with content and placement of that content? So if I look at Chime, for instance, we have our smart lists built in that are, you can have Gary Keller's 36 steps built in there, or you can have 100 steps built in there, however you want to run your business. But a lot of that is going to be automated versus, say, a live text message or a live social media post. So how can technology really play a role for realtors? And I'll start with you, Marni, based on your background, and then we'll move to Jonathan and Dan.
Yeah, I mean, it needs to amplify what you're already doing, right? So technology isn't, in my opinion, it's not the end all be all. Again, it's a tool. So what is it that you're doing, that experience to go out and attract your ideal customer and then nurture them and drive them through the entire funnel? How is technology supporting you throughout that entire journey? And it is a core foundation of everything we do. I am a big believer in owning your data. And that
Right.
means social media is so huge, and that's where all your fans and followers are all, and that's great. But tomorrow, Facebook and Instagram could shut down your account for whatever reason, and you lost that. So everything you can do right now to get all of your fans and followers into your database is gold. Your database is the foundation of your business. And 100% that should be your top priority for what you're focused on, not in addition to the social media and going out and reaching everybody.
All right. Jonathan.
Yes, your database is absolutely your gold. Like, there's so much. So when you're capturing somebody, or you're building a list, that is your relationship there. It's a person, it's a real person. They raised their hand, they had an inquiry. There's a reason they reached out to you in the first place, and that relationship is going to take time to build. So your database is gold. I saw a comment here, Trent. You said you spent $43,000 on Facebook promoting content. It just hasn't worked, and that's something that's more common than you would think. And so there's two things to think about. So your question was around placement. So how can technology help you with placement? So StreetText, obviously, we analyze thousands and thousands of ads and campaigns, and we make sure that your ads are put in the right placements automatically. But beyond that, you got to be thinking about, okay, placement is really important. So 2 hints. Instagram reel feeds right now, if you create an ad and you put it on Instagram reel feeds, there's an organic component which is happening, which we haven't seen since 2014 on Facebook, where these ads are literally like they're taking off. So that's a good one. But think about the CTA as well. Are you giving people a reason to reach out back to you? Are you giving them an ask? And so the placement is really important, but then making sure that if you're creating a really, really great content, like say you're providing great content, you're educating, you're teaching people, are you giving them opportunities within that funnel where you're just saying, hey, do you still need help with this? Hey, were you still interested in these properties? Hey, did you need, did that home value make sense? So you're giving them a reason to engage with you, and you're asking them the questions so that they are now having a conversation with you, because ultimately the database is your gold. And you want to have those conversations arise from the work that you're putting in, so that you're not just putting money out. You're actually saying, this is making sense. There's a clear ROI. I can see it. I can put that ROI back into the top of the funnel. And now I have got a business. Because the agents, I really do think the agents that understand this, who build a strong funnel, who are using like the great technology, in this room, they're the ones who are going to have a business. Because when things get busy, when things get when the markets change, you've already built that relationship. You've already got that email list. You've already got that funnel that's in the midst. And now the agents that you're supporting, you can then provide them with really great quality conversations.
And this is the
Good thought.
perfect
Great,
time
good
to
thoughts.
be building that.
Yes.
All right, Dan.
100%.
Dan, I'm pretty sure, Dan, you're going to have some strong opinions on how technology can play a role in the
Definitely
content
do.
and the placement of that content. So let's hit you up, Dan.
Yeah, I definitely do. And there were a couple of great points here. What Marni just said matters. Now is the perfect time to do this. Like, when's the perfect time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time? Right now. So, as you're watching this, don't beat yourself up that you may not have really worked on your database. Do something about it right now in this moment. Now is the time to do that. And then, of course, the question is what? Well, back to my belief that if you've got good data, you can make good decisions. I think that technology can provide tremendous advantages by measuring things for you that you couldn't possibly keep up with. For example, at my company, Happy Grasshopper, we're sending content to 37 million people. That gives us an enormous data set to look at to understand what's working and what's not working, and to help you make the right choices with your content strategies. Now, Stuart, to your point of automated versus live, freshly produced content, you must have both. And the way I would encourage anyone to think of this is the automated things can be things about yourself that are constants, that will not change, right? The variables, the live, fresh stuff are those things that none of us can predict or would know about. Marni's in Newport Beach, Stuart and Jonathan are in Canada. There's things that are going to happen in your market that none of us can predict. And those are the sort of things you need to create content about in real time. So as we're helping members do this, we create content for those things that are constant, that will not change. And then we push new messaging into their accounts once every 2 weeks, while we're also measuring everything that we're sending so we can help them make, again, the best content choices. So there's a lot here. We could do
there is for sure. Let's take a step back for a second. So we've talked about technology. We've talked about the consumer and the educated part of what's happening. So how important is establishing your online presence as a real estate agent or broker or even team lead? And how can content help you build that profile? So agents think to themselves, they say, oh, I've got a website, so I'm good. That's just not the strategy that you've got to take today. So I'm going to start with you on this one, Dan.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it is a big question, right? Because there are so many things that you could do. Sometimes just choice paralysis sets in and it causes people not to do anything. So if you're watching this now and you're one of those people, oh yeah, I haven't worked my database like I should, again, just start, right? If you're only doing social media and you're not getting those people into an email list, you're building your business on rented land. You can't do that. You have to have a reason and a means.
It's a good way of putting it, actually.
Yeah, it kind of works with the real estate audience for some reason.
Yep.
So, to take that point a little bit further, think of Marni's experience at Tom Ferry, right? This is a person who's coached tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of agents to have success in real estate. And yet, if there's one recipe for everyone and you don't like what that recipe requires of you, you're not going to consistently do it, right? So I might want to have ripped abs, but if I hate sit-ups, I need a different plan, right? I need a different plan. So I always encourage people in real estate to think about where their light is already shining. So, that agent client of mine who's got the glowing personality and makes everybody feel welcome, they can build a business on open houses. They don't have to be their open houses. They're going to make great relationships, build rapport instantly. That's great for them. The client who's great at analyzing data and understanding how the internet works, well, they can build a great lead generation business, right? So I would say figure out what your strengths are and then really double down on those. And forgive yourself for not being great at everything, right? None of us are great at everything.
Certainly not. Marni, so I'm going to add a little piece on this for you. So when I think about my online profile, I would look at things like obviously social media. So I'm a huge LinkedIn guy. I'm sure you all see me posting all the time on that one. But then what about my Google profile or my PPC SEO profile on top of my website? What are your thoughts around that? Because it can be expensive, when you're thinking about spending on SEO.
Okay, we went back down to SEO there. So
Yeah,
I was going to start with, yes, be everywhere, right? Because if somebody is going to be searching, you want to show up. But I also want to go back to don't overcomplicate it.
got
So
it.
it's like figure out what you are great at, or you enjoy, or you want to do, and go deep with that first. And typically that is also where your audience is most. So for example, if your audience is on Instagram, go deep on Instagram or LinkedIn. Should you be on Google and have Google reviews? Absolutely. But don't stop what you're doing over on Instagram to like optimize that experience for someone because you think that you have to do everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And real estate agents, there's that thought that they don't have a lot of time to manage all those different pieces. So I love the kind of continue to do good things with what you think you're good at. So that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah. The other thing, if I can add back to when we were talking about the website and what Dan was saying, people like being told what to do. I know that my kids would not agree with that statement, but a lot of times we're afraid to ask. And Jonathan was talking about CTA, the call to action earlier. Yes, it's important for us to say, I'm a real estate agent and I'm here for you, but it's also important to make the ask. Ask for the business, tell them how you can help, and then give them a super easy way to engage with you. Whether it's texting you or DMing or sending you an email or filling out a form on your website, whatever it is, constantly be asking for them to take an action with you. Because there's so much noise out there and we get so confused with everything that people want us to do. Just tell us what to do. And when we're ready, we will.
Got it. So, Jonathan, again, social media, it's something that you guys are really good at StreetText. It's obviously another outlet for good content and presenting yourself as someone who is extremely educated about the market. Why is that? And what are some of the strategies agents and brokers should be using specifically for social media? Now, we have had some snippets of it in our conversation so far, but let's have a direct answer on that one.
All right. Well, I just want to follow up what Marni said. Clarity is kindness. I think that when there's a clear call to action, when there's a clear communication in the email, whatever, that it really does help people. It helps people know what the next step is. That's a great question, Stuart. So in social media, so like when you think about social media is your first introduction a lot of times for people, or it's relationship building. So if someone's a Facebook friend, they may be an acquaintance, it may be somebody that you've been working with or potentially are planning on working with. That is a way for you to build that relationship. So if that's where it starts, think where they're going next. They're going to go to reviews. Have you built your reviews? Are you investing time in your reviews? And there's certain content that's going to perform better depending on what your goal is. So if your goal is generate leads, you want to have Facebook ads. Facebook ads are really probably the best performing dollar for result that you're going to get. And you're just wanting something simple. So you're going to want something with a static image, with a simple call to action. Again, that's really what you're going to be looking for. If you are building if you really want to build out your audience and you're thinking, okay, I'm seeing this as something, and I want to be on the video side, definitely invest in YouTube. Build your YouTube channel. Get your YouTube channel going and growing, because it's gonna take time, and know that. Marni and I were chatting last week, and I read your book, Marni. It's great. And so the key there, a lot of times people will make a mistake, is they'll start an initiative and they won't invest it for the long run. So it doesn't matter it really doesn't matter what strategy it is. If you're going to go after email and you want to build your email list, or if you're wanting to go after a YouTube list, like plan, just say, this is a strategy I want to implement into my business. I know it works. Don't put a timeline on the end of it. Just say, I'm going to implement this, I'm going to build it out, and then I'm going to test, I'm going to iterate, I'm going to improve, I'm going to ask for feedback, and I'm going to make this a lot better. So if you're looking, like right now, today, where would you want to invest your time? I would definitely want to be looking at YouTube. Because YouTube has turned into a search engine. So you're getting all that long-term search traffic. And so there's two things that are really key there, is you got to make sure that your title, your headline, is really clear, and you want to make sure that your thumbnail is really attractive. And of course, content is really the name of the game. If your content isn't great, make it great. And there's a lot of resources out there, whether it's VAs or otherwise, that can help you get that stuff created and produced in a really high quality manner, really easily. And you also have a lot of like you got AI now that we'll go into in a bit, as far as like what are some resources. But email list, like everybody is willing to communicate through their email. So again, think of social media as your traction and your relationship building, but you want to be building that database. So email, I think, would be the other one I would really strongly recommend. So it's really those three. I'd say YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and email. Those would be the things that I would be investing in if I was to go now.
Where would you recommend someone goes to get reviews of themselves? What's the best place? I've heard of Rate My Agent and a couple of other services out there that provide reviews. Is there a really good one? And are you comfortable to tell your customers to go get testimonials from their past clients?
Yeah, 100%. It should be part of their. It should be part of the process. As soon as you worked with somebody and you're getting, you've delivered the gift and you're following up with them, you just say, hey, your reviews means the world to me. Like this is the best compliment you can ever give somebody, is your review. And you follow up with them. And there's different ways you can do it. If you're not sure, let's say you had a client and you're not sure how that review is going to go, you can ask them for a review. With a lot of these services, Rate My Agent or other ones, they'll capture a review that's 3 stars or less, and they'll turn into a feedback form. But then anything 4 or 5 stars will get directed to Google for a Google review, or it'll get directed to Zillow, depending wherever you want that review to be. So there's ways you can do it where you can provide some safety to ensure that, especially if you're working with somebody and you weren't sure, you weren't 100% what that feedback was going to be. Maybe it took longer. Maybe there was things that were outside of your control. Maybe you made lots of bids and the market was just so strong. Maybe you're in DC, that market is crazy right now. So it's, it really depends. Yes.
Okay. No, it's fine. That was a great answer. Thank you for that. It was perfect. Exactly what we were looking for. So Dan, Happy Grasshopper is an incredible source of content, right? I think it's the #1 out there. But what are some other tools that stand out as a leader in the field? Like, you've been doing this a while. What are some of the tools that you think every agent should adopt today from a content perspective?
Yeah, great question, right? Because if you think about all of these things that we're doing, right, whether it's having a website, a social media presence, email campaigns, text message marketing, you name it, all of that, the whole purpose is to start a conversation, right? No one's ever going to list with you or buy with you until you have a conversation with them. So you really need a place where you can tune in to what are the sort of things that people need your input about, right? So there are a few places that you can go to find that. BuzzSumo is a great place to see what content is popular with people at the moment. Using a tool like SEMrush, for example, semrush.com, you can observe what the most popular content is. That is sort of a search engine marketing approach, and it's a good tag on to Michelle's question here in the chat. She's asking about what type of conversions are working best right now for calls to action. And I would say that in almost every scenario, if you change call to action to call to conversation, you're going to get a better result. So don't make the mistake of over teaching in your content and robbing yourself of the opportunity to have an actual conversation with someone. So no matter what the media is that you're choosing to pursue, content that raises the reader's curiosity or the watcher's curiosity and leaves that unresolved is typically going to create a better response. So hope that's helpful.
No, that's great. That's great. I'm going to shift here. So over the last month, I've been at 3 trade shows, and the major topic of those trade shows has been AI, artificial intelligence. So Marni, give me your initial thoughts on AI for real estate. We've heard about ChatGPT. Chime jumped in, built a ChatGPT app within a week, and it's just taking off, and everybody's talking about it. The CTO from the real brokerage said, whoa, put up your hands for a second, because there are rules and regulations about reaching out to people, and AI, because it is automation, is going to do that and might not automatically pay attention to what's actually happening in the background, whether that's an email or a text message. So some initial thoughts on that.
I think AI is fantastic, but I also think that we need to use it correctly, exactly like you're saying. So at Lion Desk, we had AI that we were using in text messaging so that it could start that initial conversation with someone and answer questions immediately that didn't need a human interaction for, right? So that's the speed to lead side of it. Fantastic. That's a perfect, as long as it's in a conversational tone, right?
Right.
With ChatGPT, at first I was like, I'm actually spending more time like double checking my work through this bot to tell me if like I wrote this email correctly. And so I was a little bit frustrated that it was overcomplicating my life. But I think that's up to us just getting comfortable with it and seeing it as a tool rather than asking it to write every single email and every single social post. Just use it for inspiration, and then 100% always put your own tone on it. So don't just take what they're telling you, switch it so it fits with your brand and your tone, and it can be really fun.
Yeah, good points. Jonathan, your thoughts on AI, and specifically, obviously, AI for our industry, which is real estate.
Oh yeah, AI is so cool. I think it's amazing what you can do with it and how much it can make our lives so much easier. So let's say if you're like most people in the world, there's a moment where you have like writer's block. You're like, oh, what should I say? AI makes that so easy for 2 reasons. Number one, research. You can ask it any question, and you can now use like ChatGPT and plug into the web and just ask it a question. It will pull in all that data and it will summarize it for you. And it'll create a real short form article with all the research points. So now you are the expert in your industry on any topic. Like, how amazing is that? You can go and share that Facebook post, write that email, and you can say, this is what's happening in the market right now, and include stats that you can pull in our stats. You can put anything that's published on the web, you can pull in there. So research, number one is research. Amazing. Number two is you can get it to help you format and write, but definitely, like exactly what Marni said, make it your voice, make it your tone, proofread it, because it doesn't know exactly what's true from false. So just make sure you're looking at those numbers and saying, yeah, everything looks correct. Captions is a great app. You can use it and it'll automatically take your short form content and it'll add all the captions for you. So you don't have to think about it. Video AI, it's spelled vidya.ai, vidya.ai or vidyo.ai. What it does, which is really, really cool, is it will actually take your long form video that you've done. Let's say you created a YouTube video, and it'll use AI to figure out what the snippets need to be. It'll create a bunch of reels or TikTok videos for you, and it will allow you to pick the template. So you can choose what the design needs to be. So that, and it'll add the words for it automatically for you. That's a great, powerful tool. Opus Pro does the same thing. I've been playing around with Opus Pro a little bit. You have Munch. which extracts the most engaging clips from your videos. So AI does these really, really cool stuff. There's AI that'll create imagery for you. There's AI that'll create. So basically, if you ever feel like, oh, I have a great idea and I'm not sure how to make that a reality, which is, don't worry, that's totally normal. You can now go to AI, and AI is your assistant. So if you treat AI like a research assistant and as a creative assistant, you're going to have a lot of fun. So that's where I think AI is just amazing.
Wow,
Okay,
you named a few.
Jonathan.
If you named a few products there, maybe throw them in the chat for people. That'd be awesome. Give everybody the ability to do that. Dan, what are your thoughts on AI? Especially around content.
I wish I had some AI in this room right now to kill the fly that's driving me crazy. It's a consequence of living on a horse farm. So forgive me if I seem insane in the moment. So first thing I think about AI is we have to understand there's really multiple types of AI. Generally, they fall into two categories. There's generative AI, where it's creating something for you. If you go to ChatGPT and you ask it to write an email, it's going to create an email for you, for example. Then there's AI that analyzes existing data and it turns it into something else. So some of the apps that Jonathan mentioned fall into that category. Now, I'll challenge everybody to do this. Go to ChatGPT and ask it to write an email and watch that the first sentence is going to say, "I hope this email finds you well." Right? There's no soul here, people. It's just not there. So never, never, never really look at that and go, oh, this is better than what I could create because it's done by AI, right? It's just not. You need to use the prompts to get it to create something that's more authentic to who you are.
And I certainly hope that as a society, we haven't gotten to the point where we can't write our own letters.
Yeah,
personally.
We really don't want to outsource that, most basic part of human existence, right? Reaching out and communicating with one another. It's so fundamental to who we are as a species. And, I'll step way back from the topic for a moment, but let's just acknowledge there's never been a generation that's experienced more change than ours. Like people who are alive right now, I was born in 1970, right? My parents couldn't imagine the things that my children take for granted, right? So like our wetware has a lot of catching up to do with software, and ChatGPT feels like an easy button. So back to the subject, I think there's really a great usage for any AI in examining data. And, like you mentioned, Stuart, Chime building a ChatGPT app. We've done the same thing at Happy Grasshopper, but with a different purpose. So we've trained it to constantly measure the work that our professional writing staff is creating against the data set of how effective that message was, and then to make suggestions about how we might improve that content, right? So we're not outsourcing the writing to AI, but we're using AI to help us make sense of this huge data set that would be so hard for a single human to do.
Got it. Give me, we've got a few minutes left here. Give me your final thoughts on content for real estate. You're an expert, and let's hear what your thoughts are about, what we've talked about today, but in general, how important is content, and what do we got to do with it?
I'll come back to that thing I've said a few times now. If you've got good data, you can make good decisions. You do not have to invent anything new. You just have to understand what's working and where that overlaps with the things you're good at and are willing to consistently do. So I put together a document for everyone. It's called CRM Content Fails and How to Fix Them. And anyone who wants that, just send any email to yes@happygrasshopper.com. You don't even have to worry about a subject line. Just send that and we'll automatically reply with that report for you. So
very cool. Thanks for offering that up. Marni, final thoughts on content. Let's hear your expertise, and when's your next book coming out?
For me, it's going to be simplify to amplify, right? Don't overthink it, and use all of these tools and everything that we've talked about to amplify the message that you're creating.
Awesome. Jonathan.
Yeah, so Marni has this great analogy, which she calls the shiny penny. analogy, which is sometimes we'll start chasing the shiny penny. So the thing is that some of you are already working on strategies today, and you might be tempted to stop those to jump on something new. If you're if that's in your place in business, keep executing on the idea you have, execute it all the way to value. And what that means is execute it all the way to the point that it's either serving your clients or it's serving your business. Get it all that way to the finish line. And then at that point, jump onto the second thing, because that's going to take you so much further, so much faster as you grow your business. And I loved what Dan said there, which is it's about conversation. So social content is a social conversation engine. And this is a place for you to really build and grow your business, grow your relationships. And how cool is it? Like, I'm in Victoria right now, and I can share a post about, seeing the aquarium yesterday with my girls, and I can post that on social media, and instantly I'm connected to hundreds of people right around the world. But how amazing is that we can do that? Like, what a privilege it is to live at this day and age where we get to connect with people in this kind of way and to experience these kind of technologies. It's true, it's been a lot of change, but it's a lot of fun. And so so thank you so much, Stuart, for having us here. This has been really good. I'm really grateful for this. What a fun session.
Yeah, my final thoughts are this. Firstly, embrace technology and allow that technology to not only automate, but engage with your customers and your database through well-placed content. And that content should be via social media. Obviously, leads coming from social media are so important in this day and age. And if you're not engaging there, get your profile properly set up on your website. Make sure your website is providing people with the content that they need to make that decision to go down that path with you as a real estate professional. I think that's super important. And I talk to lots of people at the shows that I go to, and lots of people are still not engaging in what we're talking about today. But when I look at products like Happy Grasshopper or Marni's book and what StreetText is doing, there's so many of these companies that are doing great things to help you become better as a real estate professional. So embrace what we're talking about and embrace the thoughts that went into this webinar. And guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be on this. And we'll do this again for sure, because I know Dan has probably another 3 hours we could use, but we're limited to an hour here. So thank you so much. Are there any questions out there that we need to answer? I don't see any. I think we're good. Lots of good content given to us from people on the webinar. Thank you so much for giving us that. And if you want to look at some of the products that Jonathan or Dan recommended, take a look at those. I would highly recommend, coming from experts in the industry, that you take a look at those and have a read at Marni's book. It's a great read if you haven't done so already. So guys, thank you so much for your time, and look forward to the next webinar that we will do. And we'll definitely do this one again.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you, Stuart. Bye, everyone.
Bye.